Well, it's finally happening, my friends. I have my husband Tom live on camera with me. I didn't want him too close, which is why he's not in the same room as me. I think this is a good amount of space. So, so we're doing a little split screen for you. Those of you who are on audio, you should definitely check out the YouTube link when you're ready. But either way, audio is good too. And well, no, let me first officially welcome him. Tom, welcome to
Welcome.
your first
Thank you. Thank you.
official your
Yeah.
I didn't finish the welcome before
Oh,
you
I'm
just
sorry.
started talking. Let me do my welcome. Tom, welcome to your official on-camera interview of Hello, my name is Jenna.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. This is
Thank
a
you.
good day.
That was a very warm welcoming.
Well, I thought so. I thought it was good. Well, Tom, something I've been talking to my listeners about is the eclipse that's coming up on Tuesday, August 12th.
Yeah.
And, I thought it would be kind of fun for us today to just talk about, some things we're ready to let go of. Because something that Chani taught me is that eclipses, a lot of times what you want to think about is the release, and I don't mean that sexually. I mean that in the things you want to let go of, things you want to release. And the best thing we can do during this eclipse is think about what we want to change and kind of let the universe, the flow of the eclipse do the manifesting for us, so it's important for us to just think about what are we ready to let go of. And I think it helps to do a before shot, before something really big changes, because I sense that there's some big changes coming up for you and me.
Hmm.
I feel like it's good to do a before shot of where we're at now. So, Tom,
Yes.
what's one thing that you think needs to change or you're ready to let go of, either personally, collectively, whatever it might be?
Um, well, definitely work stress, life stress, the feeling of not having enough hours in the day to get everything I want to get done, but also eh, everything that I need to get done. So I'm looking forward to that release of that kind of stress,
Yeah, I think we're all ready to do life a little bit differently, to
Oh yeah.
stop feeling
Yeah.
like machines, because I think a lot of
Yep.
us feel like a disposable resource,
Yep.
One thing we were talking about this morning is how this idea of self-care is really bullshit, It's like we work
Hmm.
for these corrupt institutions that drain us dry of everything we've got and then somehow
Emotionally. Yeah.
yep, and then somehow make it feel like it's our fault because we're not balancing our work and our life properly,
Yep.
you know? Do you want to maybe speak a little bit more about that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we've talked about it, on a one-on-one basis where I get done with my day at work and I have zero energy for what's important, family, the day-to-day stuff that we do with our family, but then also just myself. There's just very limited energy to put into myself and all of those other things. And that's something that definitely needs to shift. It definitely needs to change, because you can't live that way, where you're giving your whole heart to one thing, and but you have 10 other things that deserve your attention, and those 10 other things are far more important than just that one thing. That one thing could be anything. In my case, it's work. That's absolutely taking the majority of my patience, the majority of my grace, the majority of well, most of my energy is being put into work. And I'm not here to bash my job. I'm not here to bash my work, but just the simple idea of putting everything into one basket, and then at the end of the day, your basket's empty, but
Hmm.
you still have to fill it for other people. You still have to fill it for your family, your wife, your spouse, but to me, more importantly, yourself too. Because
Hmm.
without yourself being filled properly, and equally balanced, you can't give to any of those other things, including your work, including, that one thing that's draining your energy. You can't put the energy into it anymore because your own self is depleted, So that has to change, We got one life, I don't want to live it being stressed about one thing or putting in my energy all into one thing. It's not healthy.
And, you know, that's maybe a good thing to focus on releasing. I think it would be a powerful thing for everybody listening to think about a role that you play in the workplace, because I think the American workplace is a huge point of just needed change. From there's just this attitude of just serving institutions, serving as a number and being
Yep.
treated as a number. And like I said, this very like abusive approach that a lot of workplaces take to self-care and saying that, it's our fault that we don't have a work-life balance when they demand so much. And Channy talks about how it's important when we reflect on things we want to release, also taking the next step to how can we build something better. It's not just about taking the bullshit and doing some, meditation, doing some journaling and letting that go. It's also about paying attention to what we can make, because something I firmly believe is that we, the people, have a lot more power to begin building something new, even in the midst of the bullshit that's still going on. And we
Mhm.
have to. It's like the only way that things are going to get better is if we start believing in our power to create. And so I think it would be really healthy for people to imagine during this week what it might feel like to shed an unhealthy role, specifically in the workplace, but also as they do so, opening up to something new that they can make, kind of being open to receiving sort of the flow of this eclipse and what we can make instead. What do you
Mhm.
think about
Oh yeah. No, those are the steps that we need to take. Yeah. Like
that?
we need to take a stand at some point against the cliche of work-life balance and actually start taking the steps to balance those things out and focus on what's far more important, you know. We all have to work, right? We have to make a living. We have to pay our bills. We have those already ingrained. Our stresses, those are ingrained already. But there's a better way of doing it, and I think just releasing the idea that um, work-life balance actually exists, I think is kind of the first step of just recognize that it doesn't exist, that you have the power to change it. You have the actual power to balance it out properly, and live healthier. And yeah.
Well, I think one way people can begin to do that, and I talk about this all the time, but what will be unique on this episode is hearing how you've actually lived this out. So, what I'm talking about is that we don't have to wait until one part of our journey is complete, meaning you're right, we all have to have jobs, we all have to make money. Here we are, born into this kind of mess of a system, this mess of an economy, and we have to make it work. So, yes, we do have to work, but we
Hmm.
don't have to wait.
No,
So, we do
no.
have to work, but we don't have to wait. And if there's one thing you and I are very good at, it's finding our joy, connection, and creativity in the midst of some of life's traumas, but also life's responsibilities. We have a lot
Mhm.
of kids, we have things to take care of, but we find a way. We're sleep deprived, but we find a
We're
way.
s-
And so,
we're sleep deprived because we find a way.
yeah, well, that's part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
part
yeah,
of
but it's
it.
but it's worth it.
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this, and I'm going here, audience members, because I
Mhm.
want to give you another example of someone who's trying to build something in the
Yeah.
midst of the some things that aren't working. So where I'm going, Tom,
Yeah.
is in the direction of wanting to ask you about your friend.
Oh, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you please talk about your friend and how your friend has helped you
Yeah.
in the midst of some of this just
Yeah.
really kind of stressful times of not
Right.
being able to maintain work-life balance, of
Hmm.
being caught in a system that just
Yeah.
isn't for the, yeah. Tell us about your friend.
I will tell you about my friend. Not in code, but I want to keep his identity a secret. Maybe. What I've done is I've taken 15 minutes a day, and collectively at the end of the day, I've thought to myself, what's one message, or maybe two messages that I'd like to express through my friend. And it's usually has been something that I've been thinking about all day, or that's been on my heart, or maybe something I experienced that I'm just like, okay, I want to share that, but I want to share that in just a quick microdose. Um, but I don't want to do it myself. I'm going to do it via, a T-Rex puppet,
There he is.
called, Theodore Rex the Third, Just Rexin Around. So I've been taking 15 minutes a day, and it's usually, toward the end of the day where I'm like, all right, what does my day mean? And what do I want to share? So I'll begin a little short writing process. Um, and then I'll look it over and I'll be like, do I still feel this way, or does this really explain what the message that I'm trying to convey? And that process is just the first 5 minutes. The next process is, filming it, and then the next process is editing and actually posting the video, just posting the short message. So it takes me 15 minutes, but it satisfies the tech nerdy part of me that loves movies and cuts and music and emotion through film. It satisfies the creativity in terms of writing out the script, something that I really enjoy doing. But then the actual just the process of feeling and expressing an emotion is the top three things that I like to do. I like to
Mhm.
express myself emotionally. I like to express myself technically, but then I like to express myself creatively. So I'm just
Mhm.
taking 15 minutes a day. And when I post the video, I'm not thinking I'm going to get famous. I'm not thinking I'm going to be this next big thing or anything. Of course, I'd love to be doing this for a living. But what I'm doing with my energy is just putting out, I hope this helps someone. That's it.
Mhm.
I'm just putting out that vibe, that energy to the actual post itself. Um, and I, it has changed my own perspective almost to a point of, this is the 15 minutes a day that's mine. This is 15 minutes that really brings me joy. It's something I look forward to outside of all the other things that I look forward to, but just as something that's mine. And I think that's important, um, because you have to have something to look forward to, right? But it's just the beginning of sharing myself via a T-Rex puppet, but it's sharing with the world something that I've been thinking of, sharing an experience. And I think that's what brings me the most joy is when people respond to it with they can relate to it, or maybe it made their day. That's like the biggest compliment that you can get, because oftentimes we don't understand the impact that we can make on people,
Mhm.
or the impact that we do make on people. And that can be
Mhm.
in the office setting, that can be in a world setting where, we're too stressed out to care. And that's just the impact that we're making on everybody else, is that we're just too stressed out. Well, Rex gives me the opportunity to be something different, but also be myself. So that's where it's been helping me. And now it's come become something very small, but it's become something where, the actual puppet itself is becoming almost like an extension. Like, all right, this actual object brings me joy. This actual object, when it begins talking, makes me happy. you know,
Mhm.
makes me believe that, like, I don't think he's real. I'm not delusional, but it makes me think that he's a real thing too.
Well, you've
That,
created him like a character in a book or a TV
right.
show, so he's real
Yeah.
in that
So
way.
that's a very long-winded way of just saying that um, a T-Rex puppet's helping me grow.
Well, there's so much that I want to say to that because I think there's a lot my listeners can learn from it. And you said that it takes you about 15 minutes a day,
Yep.
like start
That's
to
it.
finish, with making some notes on your video, recording the video, edits, posting.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's 15 minutes a day. Many
Yep.
of us can spare 15 minutes a day. And it's about, cutting something, and that can be as simple as scrolling,
Yep.
or as simple as zone. Because you still get time to watch TV shows before you go to bed. You still get that
Yep.
time to kind of just turn your brain off a little bit and whatever. Like you still have that time plus kid responsibilities plus work. And this is 15 minutes of your day that is changing your life for the better, but is also
Mhm.
changing other people, because you have gotten feedback. Like when you brought
Yeah.
up people, actual people on Instagram and on YouTube and on TikTok have told you that it brightens their day. And
Yeah.
you are gaining, like, I know it's not for the fame, but you're gaining followers. And I bring that up because there are real people out there who
Hmm.
are being positively impacted by this.
Yep.
And this is this is what we need, my friends. Like it might seem silly to some people, right? A T-Rex puppet, but it's
It
awesome,
is.
right? It is
Yep.
silly, but it's
That's.
awesome.
Hmm.
It's encouragement. It's something people can grab onto in the midst of this. And these are the kinds of things that we need to build. Because, like I said, we're in this economy, we're in this system. We can't change it overnight, but we can start changing it right now. And
Hmm.
yes, some of that change can come in the form of an emotional support T-Rex. Because, as you said, you're pouring yourself into it. I share with my listeners that an Indigenous teacher taught me that we put our energy into what we make. And when you put your energy of wanting to heal yourself, of wanting to create, of wanting to heal others emotionally through what you've learned, you make an impact. And my friends out there who are listening to this show and watching, you can make an impact. You absolutely can. It's real. And so whatever your emotional support T-Rex is, grab onto it because this is actually how we're going to change the world. We're going to change the world 15 minutes at a time as we learn to kind of shift because things don't typically dramatically just disappear or build. There's a shift that happens
Yep.
and it's always moving. And so as we release these old roles, what we want to change, I would love my listeners to think about what's calling to you. What aspect of your energy, what aspect of yourself do you need to pour into something for yourself, those you love, and the collective?
Hmm. Yeah. And it's something so small and attainable, um, to spread kindness through just a funny quote or reread someone else's poetry, and just get their word out. I think the general message is just seriously spreading kindness,
Mhm.
that Rex is trying to do. But for me, it literally is just 15 minutes. That's all it takes for me is 15 minutes to to do something like this, and whatever comes of it, is fine with me. So far the response has been really, really positive, and it's been small, and but it's been consistent, and that's what I really enjoy. Is that I don't mind being small and mighty, as long as there's this, you know as long as I don't feel alone in my thoughts and what I'm sharing and what I'm doing, it feels good to be just acknowledge that you're not alone. And you had mentioned something about this, or in a conversation we had over this week. It just feels good to be heard. Feels good to be seen. Um, feels good to feel like you're not alone in whatever struggles you're having. But also believe that there's a way out with those struggles too. So it's it's been fun. I've liked it.
Well, part of what makes us feel alone is feeling like people don't share our values. That's
Sure.
what leads to the greatest isolation. That's what leads to some of the frustration that people have with dating.
Yeah.
That's what leads to when people have ideals, when they want to see the world change, when they're visionaries, what can lead to isolation is thinking that you're the only one who continues to hold on to the values of compassion, of attention, meaning like
Hmm.
giving your attention to the right things, of genuine love, honesty. It can feel
Hmm.
isolating when people in your immediate community or your family or your workplace don't seem to value that. So
Right.
I'm glad that you brought up part of what helps you give ideas for your skits are things you're
Hmm.
reading, like
Yep.
poetry that you're reading, conversations that we have,
Yep.
insights that you get from work or from your pain. And this is how things are made, my friends, is that you literally just take your attention away from what you lack or what's trying to get you to buy something, the stuff that you scroll, and pay attention to the thoughts that you have about your everyday
Hmm.
experiences, because this is what your creations are born out of,
Right.
and start connecting with, like, use some of these online platforms to connect with people who share your values. I was talking about Chani with you and sharing that, like, wow, the stuff she talks about, and this is why I talk about her so much on this podcast, is
Hmm.
because she shares a lot of my values when it comes to justice and change and creativity. And I found her by plugging into her app, by listening to an interview with her. So
Yeah.
I encourage my listeners to make those connections too. I I need to plug in the computer. So do you have thoughts you can share while I do that real quick?
Oh man, I have so many thoughts, so many feelings. We're experiencing technical difficulties apparently at this time. I don't, man, everything that you just said, there's a lot of thoughts. Oh, and we're back. Look at that. I get a pause break. All right, you were saying?
No, I was just asking about, like, if you can speak to connecting via values, like just what I said about
Yes.
how values sometimes lead to, because when I think about your frustration at work or your frustration,
Hmm.
my own frustrations, it's that my own reason for quitting my job is because
Yeah.
I didn't believe that the people working there shared my values of justice, of
Yeah.
compassion, of honesty. I mean, it really is feeling like when people don't share your values, that's what leads to some of the greatest feelings of isolation.
Right.
But those people are out there, and the more that you honor your own values and
Hmm.
honor what you want to make, the more you'll draw those people to
Yeah.
you. Because if there's anything I've observed with you and creating these T-Rex videos, it's that you're getting responses from people that are very kind, from
Yes.
people who are craving some encouraging content. And
Right.
so just by you beginning to create this, you've naturally drawn in people who
Yep.
share those values. And maybe they're
Yeah.
not your best friends, but now they're out there, and that
Yeah.
your values of kindness and encouragement and creativity have a
Hmm.
place.
Right.
And that in itself can heal a lot of the feelings of isolation.
Yep. Yeah. And I have two things to that. So I believe that unspoken values um, will lead to resentment. Um, and and a break from that relationship, whether that be professional or personal. I feel like if you're not willing to express what your values are and share them with people, people aren't able to either be aligned with them, or see them for their value itself. But they might. But if we're not sharing our values with people, we don't know that we're going to be aligned or not, so unspoken values, I think, is part of the problem. I think it's okay to share our values. But in terms of like what Rex is doing, kind of, being encouraging, being positive, sharing things, sharing some realities, whatever it might be. I understand I'm not the first, and I don't claim to be the first, and I don't claim to be to be right all the time. These are just simply my thoughts, my values, and I guess my theories sometimes.
Mm,
Um, so I think having the ability to express and share your values with someone, whether that be the world or the people at work, um, you you have to speak them. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to share in their values or them share with you. Um,
mm,
so I think that's incredibly important because the thing with values is they're not always going to align 100%, right?
mm,
And that's when compassion comes in. That's when grace comes in, patience, all those things, understanding of someone else's values too, trying to get their viewpoint. I think is incredibly important because they're going to state their value, they're going to give you the evidence why they feel this way, and then you can decide whether or not that aligns with yours or not, and then you can choose if that person is the right person or the right company or the right community of people that you want to uh, share your time with, which is so
mm,
valuable, and it goes back to 15 minutes. My 15 minutes is so valuable to me.
mm,
um, I don't want to waste my time with people and communities and places that are unwilling to share their values openly and discuss why they chose those values as themselves, for themselves. So expressing values is incredibly important, to opening up the conversation to will we align or not, and
mm,
can I align with you? Can I buy that brand that you want me to? you know,
mm.
um,
Yeah.
I think it's important, you know.
Well, it gives you a sense of direction. The
Hmm.
examples that you gave, it's like when you identify and express your values
Hmm.
and you share them, you don't suppress them,
Yep.
you know, then you can get an idea of where to go next. Because, like you said, if people share or don't share them, you figure out, okay, is this something I can live with? Is it something I can't?
Yep.
And then collectively, part of the problem with the
Hmm.
state of our country right
Yep.
now is that values are not being shared or
No.
respected. And
No.
it's clear. And so, one valuable thing, I guess, to use that word, that's coming out
Yep.
of this disconnection is that it's clear that as a country, we are not united in our
No.
values, and
No.
people are making some decisions
Yep.
based on that. And
Yeah.
so it's maybe good that it's kind of all coming out in the open because it's like, okay, there's misalignment here. And if you're
Hmm.
wondering how to, like, if you don't know what you value,
Hmm.
number one, you can Google values list. Like, you can literally go, like, human values, core values, and
Yeah.
Google will pull up words for you. So that's actually a very simple way to just look at what values are. But
Yep. A starting
the
point.
other, yeah, to just see what they are. But here's how you kind of identify for yourself. So
Hmm.
pay attention to what bothers you.
Yep.
Like, if something pisses you off, in general, that means that somebody probably like disrespected a value that you have or their values don't align. So pay attention to what pisses
Hmm.
you off. It's a clue. You also need to pay attention to what makes you feel connected. Okay, so one
Yeah.
reason why I fell in love with you is because
Ah.
I value intellectual conversations, stimulating conversations, genuine. So, like, here's some values like being genuine and intelligence, intellect. I mean, all that. Like, I connected with you in that way. It made me feel
Hmm.
alive. And so I value being genuine, genuinity,
Hmm.
intellectual things, wisdom,
Hmm.
because wisdom is born out of our conversations because we learn from each other. And
Right.
so if you need to figure out what you value, pay attention to what lights you up and what
Sure.
pisses you off and what makes you want to move in a certain direction. So that's a
Yeah.
good way to identify what you value and then what you want to make or release. Because again, this is all about release too. So it helps
Hmm.
to identify that. Did you have
Yeah.
something to add?
No, I think that's, yeah, I think a lot of people confuse what values are. Um, I like the idea of like, hey, what, Google this, give me the definition. But I think you do have to identify the values, and I think, like you said, the um, you can identify them quickly if those values bring you comfort and bring you joy and bring you peace. I think that's a really good point actually, because I know we've had conversations. By the way, we're married, guys. So, I don't know if that was discussed. I think, yeah, something like that, but we've had multiple conversations, and I remember one conversation, if I can share this story. We were on a date
Are you
day.
gonna?
Yeah, I'm gonna. But no, we were on a date day. Grandparents were watching the kids. We went out to, I'll just say we went up north, and we were in this Vietnamese vegetarian little hole in the wall restaurant. And we ordered our food, we're waiting on our food, and like I think you even asked me, like, what are your, five values? You know? Do you remember this conversation at
I
all?
have no idea what you're talking
Okay.
about. So like
Well,
I'm waiting to see where
I
it
don't want to
goes.
I don't want to give specific locations, 'cause
Well, just
that
what was the conversation though?
the conversation was you literally just asked me what my values are. If you had
Okay.
to list your values, what are they? And
Yeah, yeah.
I was kind of stumped a little bit because I know what my values are, but I didn't know how to articulate them. I hadn't really stopped and thought, hey, what are my five values? Right?
Yeah, I'm starting to remember this conversation now.
And
Yep, yep.
and the conversation it didn't just like, it didn't um it wasn't off to the races very quickly, because I first had to identify what my action, if I had to name my values, what they were. So I never stopped and thought, what are my values? What does bring me joy? What does bring comfort and peace to my soul and my mind? And that's when I was able to identify, like, and break it down what my values were, because I never had asked myself what my values were. I just kind of lived them without communicating them.
Hmm.
And that question that day on our date day, it was like, oh man, I didn't think I had homework today, but
Hmm.
this is good homework. So
Hmm.
that was it. That was
No,
it.
I remember that now. And
Yeah. So ask yourself, I guess, ask yourself, what are my values?
mhm.
I think is a great starting point.
Well, and yeah, it can come from Google, but also just pay attention to what makes you mad and what lights you up, in a good
Yeah.
way, because it's like that's a big clue. And know that you can start right now building an environment that is supportive of your values, where you can
Yep.
actually live them. Because I can tell you from direct experience,
Hmm.
one thing leads to another. And
Yeah.
so even if you absolutely do not have to have all of the answers right now. You just have to bring your awareness to what's already in your mind. You just have to get some
Hmm.
clarity. And then if you
Yeah.
take one step, that step leads to something. I mean, you discovered that you loved this T-Rex puppet when we were at the library with our son, and you were like, "Oh my God." And there was a
Yeah.
book next to it that said, "You have feelings all the time." And you were like, "Here it is." And
Yeah.
so
It's
it was
literally it.
clear to me that you valued it because I saw how it lit you up. Like you can
Hmm.
even identify others' values. You can bring your own awareness to it by paying
Yeah.
attention to how they react to things. Like I saw how you reacted to this puppet in this book and you
Hmm.
wanted to take a picture. And I'm like, okay, this is a big deal for him.
Hmm.
And then I got you, the puppet for Christmas. And so it's
Yeah.
like, this is something that you can extend. This is how you support people too, because once you identify and pay attention to your own values and how to,
Hmm.
identify them, well, you can do that for the people you love and you can encourage them in what they want to pursue. All of this matters. So it's just as important to pay attention to the people who you care about and what they value. And that's as simple as bringing your attention to their reactions, to both their angry reactions, but also when they get really excited.
Hmm.
So our attention, I keep coming back to this. Our attention is such an important resource. And
Yeah.
from the library, from me seeing your joy, from you expressing that joy with the
Yeah.
T-Rex, all of this led one thing to another to you eventually making these videos. So for all of you out there, please know that once you just start something, you take one step toward it, the people
Yep.
you love and the universe will answer back. It will grow. It's the same for my stories, like I started writing realistic fiction. You planted a seed saying, you should try fantasy. At the time, I wasn't ready to receive that. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. But you still planted the seed. It was still in
Someday. That was the
and
answer.
once and once I successfully completed my realistic fiction novel and then
Yep.
some magical realism, then I was like, you know what? Okay, now I'm starting to write about magical things. Maybe I can. And so it's like one thing leads to another.
Yep.
So just know if you're out there, take a step. It will grow. And
Hmm.
I can't emphasize that enough, that changing your life, changing the world, changing everything just starts by bringing your awareness to the correct things and taking a step toward them.
Yep.
The universe will answer. Did you have anything you wanted to say to that? Otherwise, I have one more example and then we should probably think about wrapping it up.
No, I think you said it right. I think taking the first step, recognizing it, and I was kind of thinking, let's like it takes just one first step before you start running, so do it. Find that motivation to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
what was your other example?
Tom Holland.
Tom
Okay.
Holland.
Tom Holland, he's everywhere right
Gem.
now.
Gem.
Well, in his interview with Jay Shetty, he was talking about how he quit drinking because
Yeah.
he didn't like how angry, like he saw himself getting dependent on alcohol, and
Yeah.
he talks about feeling like how he just used to be angry a
Yeah.
lot and didn't like it. And then, by bringing an awareness to like how he was expressing himself emotionally and how he was
Hmm.
feeling. Well, that gave him some clues to some collective issues of, alcohol being such this casual thing that everybody just kind of
Yeah.
mindlessly consumes, but it might have a lot of detrimental effects on our culture. And so he quit for himself and those he loves, but he didn't replace it with nothing. He created his own healthy drink, and Tom Holland isn't solving the problem of alcohol consumption in the world,
Yeah.
but he is building something that can work towards solving that
Yeah.
by healing himself, quitting for himself, and going, okay, alcohol's kind of a problem.
Hmm.
What can I replace it with? Because I know that, having a drink with friends is part of how we connect. Literally, it's cup of coffee, tea, alcohol. Like drinks are how human beings connect. And so it's like, okay, I can't replace this with nothing. What's something healthy, or at
Yeah.
least not debilitating that I can make? And so
Damaging.
he's not solving the whole problem of alcohol, but he is beginning to create an alternative option. And it's the
Yeah.
same for us and the problems that we want to solve is it's like, well, let's bring our awareness to how this problem is affecting ourselves,
Hmm.
take the steps we need to heal from that, and then see what we can make and how it can grow in the midst of kind of still having the problem existing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. He's setting a good example too,
Mhm. Yeah.
putting your mind to something and making a positive change out of something that could very well be damaging. So
Hmm.
that Tom Holland's awesome. I think we both know that.
He is. He
So
is.
he's a favorite around the house. So
He is. Yeah. He's great. Um, so kind of to summarize for this eclipse,
yep.
there's a lot of just, I think if I had to summarize what we've talked about, it's sort of shedding the machine.
Hmm.
It's releasing the belief that we have to be cogs in the machine,
Yeah.
that the only hope is just, you were talking about this morning, that all we can do is just get through, you
Yeah.
know. That's so suffocating, but it's something we've kind of been conditioned to believe in American culture is we just have
Yep.
to get through it. We just have to, maybe shedding the belief that all there is for us in life is just getting through and realizing that we have a lot more power to create and connect than we
Hmm.
think we do. We just
Right.
have to listen to our own calling, our own values, and
Hmm.
take some steps toward it.
Right.
Anything else you want to add?
That's it. No, that was well said.
Oh, thank you. Do you want to say the goodbye for me?
Oh, do I just like do it right now?
Yeah.
Do I do it with the wink? I don't know if I can do the wink. I
Do
can't
I
wink.
wink?
Uh, Sometimes. I
Oh,
love it. Yeah,
I didn't
no.
realize I was doing that.
No, it's not
Okay.
always. It's kind of like a weird
Sometimes.
all right, I'll try it. Thanks for coming.